My City is a tile lane civilization game in which each player will be creating a city on their own board, and we have seen games like that, of course. There's a theme which is again the civilization, but in essence, the game still feels pretty abstract. Ultimately, you'll be thinking a lot about playing Tetris on a board rather than, oh, I'm leading these people into the new age of their civilization. Still, the game is designed and produced as a legacy kind of game, meaning that you will start with a board and a certain amount of components, and then a lot of the other components are closed, are sealed into envelopes that you're supposed to open only after you open the previous one, you play the scenarios that are in there, then you play the next one, and so on and so forth. So these envelopes will guide you through 24 scenarios that will tell you again the story of the civilization of your city and or the other cities that the other players are controlling. The game is very, very much multiplayer solo. I have my board and my city, you have your board and yours. We play our thing, we do our thing, and at the end we score points. So it's unusual. To me, it seems less common to have legacy elements in games that are not about individuals. Usually it is about you level up your characters, they develop their interactions, their synergies, and so on and so forth. And usually also that is what ensures the story, a legacy story, to have a strong narrative element. If you think about most movies, most novels, they are about individuals dealing with certain situations rather than governments or technologies. Even if it's like, well, it's a person, a group of people dealing with that government, that technology. Well, here it is, there's an overall narrative, but again, that also, listening to my taste, feels a little bit abstract because, again, there are no individuals. You don't see the white of anybody's eyes. And so it's about, and I'm going to avoid spoilers, so I'm going to tell you very generally that as you open the new envelope, you'll find out that the people of the city have discovered a new technology, a new way of processing goods, a new way of transporting things. And so it is, again, very, very bird's eye view, which to me made for a peculiar experience because it definitely was a narrative, but not so much of a story. There was an arc of progression, but again, without individuals dealing with the situation, interacting with the situation. It felt like through the campaign, again, more than seeing the stunning history of civilization, I felt that I was playing a series of variants of the game because, again, different envelopes will reveal different things that will change the experience. Now we play differently. Most importantly, now different things will score, different things become relevant, and another thing, then other things become obsolete. So if halfway through the campaign there is a version that you like very much, well, that's gonna be overruled later. I guess once you have all of the components open, you can go back and decide we're going to play it in the style of Chapter 15. So there is that idea. So think about it as a game that its core is very simple, and then it comes with different variants that are unlocked over time and create a narrative of sorts. Again, although the narrative to me was a lot less compelling as a story than in legacy games in which you have individual characters. Because of the legacy element, also I cannot show you the board. I can show you some other components, but I don't want to give you any spoilers, so I'm not going to show the board. Not even the eternal board, meaning each board is double-sided. One side, you're going to abuse it with the traditional legacy elements. You're going to attach stickers to them. You're going to write on the board. You're going to write on those stickers. So it changes and becomes individual and unique, and that's totally awesome and totally fun. But then once you're done with the 24 chapters of the campaign, then you look at the other side, and you have a game that you can play anytime. And it's called the Eternal Game. And it's I cannot show that board either because it corresponds to the board as it looks like, or the things that are in play, the things that score, as they are about halfway through the campaign. So if I show the Eternal Game, I'm going to show some stuff that you do not know at the beginning, and you may not want to know that. So actually, fair warning, do not look at the back side of the boards if you really don't want to have any spoilers about things that will be unlocked later. I can show you the illustration on the back of the box to give a sense of what the board looks like. So yes, you're gonna have a board representing your the area where your city will grow. We got forests on one side, and you cannot build on them. Mountains on the other side, and you cannot build on those either. Then there are other light green spaces, and that's where you can build. And in some light green spaces also you have rocks, and this is stuff you know from the first scenario, so no spoilers. Rocks that you're trying to cover. If those rocks still peek out from the light green background at the end of the scenario, you lose points. But there are also trees in light green squares, and those are good. You want to build around them, creating nice little parks, and they will score you points at the end of the game. And what scores changes from scenario to scenario, so I'll have to be vague about it. In the middle of the board, there is a river that you can't quite see in this illustration here. It's covered by other tiles. And the idea is this. Each player will have a bag of... I'm checking them, not spoiling anything. A bag of... that spoils a bit. There you go. A bag of polyominoes, so Tetris-like, and maybe there are stickers on some of them, which you ignore in the Eternal game, but I don't want to show you what they are. And then there is a deck of cards that goes in the middle of the table with those shapes. So everybody has their own board in front of themselves, everybody sorts out their tiles in front of themselves, and then you shuffle these cards and start drawing them. If this card is drawn in the middle of the table, now that is the piece that everybody has to place on their board. The first piece needs to be adjacent to the river. The other ones needs to be adjacent to the buildings, and adjacent only counts as orthogonal, not just touching by the corner, blockus style. And that's the general idea. If you cannot place a building, well, here's the idea. If a building comes out and you don't like it, you don't want to place it, you can choose to pass, and so you don't have to place it. And you simply flip it face down in your personal reserve. You don't have to place it, and you will lose a victory point for that. And it can be a good investment if you're building up to some other combos. But if you abuse that too much, if you use that option too much, well, first you're losing victory points. Also, you get fewer pieces on the board, and that's in the first scenario. There will be a penalty for uncovered spaces. Again, the penalty is particularly severe for uncovered spaces with rocks, but each light green uncovered space is a penalty. So the more pieces you skip, the fewer spaces get covered, the more severe the penalty. But I like that option. I like that option there that you can choose to pass or place it. Matter of fact, at some point, you may decide to drop out of the game, and you just say so. From that moment on, you're out. Later cards that are revealed do not affect you, but you do not have to lose points to skip them. You just skip. Continue like this until either the deck of cards has been entirely depleted or everybody dropped out of the game. And at the point you score, and that changes vastly depending on the stage of the campaign that you're playing, and also that's the or whether or not you're playing the Eternal game. So that really is the general idea. Is as simple as that. Flip a card, everybody takes the corresponding tile, they place them on their board. You can choose to skip or not. You can choose to drop out of the game, and that's it. An interesting idea I have to tell is that in this deck there is a card whose only effect is to skip the next card. So actually, if that card was drawn and then this tile was drawn, then this tile is not placed. That's cool. That ensures that, well, you cannot count 100% that any one tile will be in play. If anything, there may be games where the skipping card comes out very early on, then you can count on every other tile being in the game. Which, again, it's a super minor nitpick, but it just makes for different things. I like the idea of not being able to count 100% on the tile. Which, of course, if that matters to you, the easy fix is you shuffle the cards at the beginning of the game, you remove one face down from the deck, no one knows what that is, and that's it. You have the effect of a card will not come into play. But as the as the game as this has been designed originally, the idea is that some random point you will know that a card is not going to be drawn. That means a tile is not going to be placed. So what we have here is the perfect second game of the night because it's so light, it's so simple. You can teach in a couple of minutes, and it's fun. I personally really like tile laying games. I like the visual puzzle. I used to play Tetris when it was a new game, so that both dates me and also tells you what kind of game that I like. Now I like all the crazy stuff with adventure, etc., etc., etc. But the elegance and simplicity of a game like Tetris, of a spatial puzzle, that kind, to me, that remains massively appealing. So I definitely enjoyed this game. There are times in which I found the legacy elements almost unnecessary. And then after now I'm done with the campaign, I really like the Eternal game. I almost thought if that's all that there was, if they sold like a smaller version, which is just my city, my Eternal City, something like that, I'd be happy with that. I think it's a perfectly legit game, which is also great in case you're worrying, oh, but what at the end of the campaign there is nothing left. To me, at the end, the game at the end of the campaign is perfectly legit, light tile lane game. Matter of fact, after I finished the campaign with a group of friends, I played the Eternal game with a friend who had never participated in the campaign, and they didn't feel like anything was missing. That friend of mine was like, "Oh, it's perfectly good. This is a lot of fun," which it is. Simple, nice, clean, and of course, it's an interesting puzzle. Depending on what you're scoring, there's more of a push or luck element. If I do this, if I do that, depending if this comes, even if you know what everything is gonna be in the deck that comes out, the order in which they come out, of course, can be massively different. So, should I skip the style here? Take it a penalty, not place it in the hope that the next style will allow me to fit in that area, or well, I'll just put this style here so I don't get the penalty, but I'm ruining a synergy. But there's the idea, there are 5 cards left and I just need this one card to come out. So I could drop out now, give up, or hope that the card that I need comes out, gives me that thing. So, especially in the late game, there's some really interesting push your luck elements, which I did not expect. That's not the first time that comes to mind when I think of tile laying games, but it works here. Again, having all those variant options is nice, and for some of you that will be very appealing. To me, that was interesting. That was an added bonus. Again, I didn't feel particularly engaged with the story, but that's okay. I play a lot of tile laying games where there is no story, and I still enjoy the abstract puzzle. So, while I was not... Again, when I say I wasn't excited about it, somehow it looks like a negative because somehow everything is awesome, and if it's not everything awesome, we have to justify that. When I say to me that wasn't interesting, that's not a negative. It's just that was not something that was an added value to me. I would not feel like, oh my gosh, I really want to know what happens to these people later. I was interested in finding new variants of the game, new mechanics, different ways to score. Some I like more, some I like less. And I'm perfectly happy with the Eternal game, which again is the kind of game that second game of the night, after you play maybe a complicated game, then people are a bit tired, and it was something that is, yes, easy to explain, easy to play, plays in under an hour. Maybe emotions run pretty strong in the first game. It was a diplomatic game. Now you want something more relaxed because there definitely is that relaxed element. The game is 100% non-confrontational because I'm doing my thing and you're doing your thing. Maybe later there's some scoring that is time sensitive. Who knows? But even that, if it's in there at all, who knows? If it's in there at all, that it's a minor element that doesn't make the game confrontational. The game remains pretty peaceful and very pleasant and very nice. And this is my assessment for my city.